What's up, everybody? Welcome to Directional Influence episode 52, brought to you by VVV Gaming. I'm your host, Rapture, as always, 52nd episode, hyped to be here. And I'm joined by two very special, awesome people that I'm glad to have here. First of all, we have from Juice Gaming, Doom. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. All right, how are you, man?
I'm all right. And then we have our special guest who hasn't been on the show before. I know Doom has, but he runs CEO. His name is Jebailey. How you doing?
How's it going, guys? It's Alex.
All right, so Alex is here to talk to us about, of course, one of the biggest debates of the year, and it's still going on very strong, eSports versus the fighting game community, as it's been casually called. So we're going to get right into that. And we have Alex here to talk about this. Alex, can you introduce yourself? Because I know some fans of the show may not necessarily know who you are, so could you do that for me?
Sure. Well, my name's Alex Jebailey. I'm one of the older generation Street Fighter players in the 90s. I used to compete a lot in tournaments, and then a couple years ago started running them casually, and then there was a near canceled tournament in Orlando, Florida called Game that ended up being canceled 3 weeks before its date. Smash was involved. There was going to be Smash, Street Fighter, yada yada. 3 weeks to go. The community helped me out. We pretty much replaced the event. Ended up being a pretty good success for something with only 3 weeks of prep time. Had about 300 people or so. The Smash community was a great help. They brought in about 75 plus players. Then the rest was the fighting game community. That was a success. Decided to do it again the following year. Ended up with about 1,000 people showing up. And that was this year in 2011. And ever since then, the CEO brand is a event, something I do as a side hobby, not as a full-time job. Just really took off, and just keep going with it. I'm already planning out 2012.
All right, cool.
So that would be me.
Good to hear. And obviously, we know Doom. You're from Juice Gaming, and you're a host and all that kind of stuff. And you're here going to provide your opinion as well, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. So we're going to get started here, and the theme of today's show is obviously esports versus the fighting game community, and this big debate. For those of you who don't know, the community is the sort of butting heads here. The fighting game community sort of doesn't want to budge. Esports doesn't sort of want to budge, and esports sort of being like StarCraft, the kind of big thing, MLG, the big gaming circuits. So we're putting a bit of a spin on that topic because it's been heavily debated. I know me and Alex tweet all the time about it, and we're almost sick of it to talk about this kind of topic, but we want to talk about it a little differently. So the theme of today's podcast is going to be, what if the leagues do in fact pick up the games? And in fact, I know Jaxel, who runs 8-Way Run and does the Soul Calibur kind of stuff, he was commenting on Lord Jareth's post, and a lot of people have seen that article. We'll talk about that later, saying that it will in fact happen. So we're going to talk about what if it does happen, what are the consequences, what do we think the future will be if these two communities do come together. And I want to start off asking Jebailey, if, for example, MLG or IPL or any kind of those leagues do pick up, say, Street Fighter or Marvel, how do you think it will be a success?
I don't think it's going to be a success right away. And the thing is, I don't think if it is a success right away, they're going to stick around long enough to, build it up. That's everyone's biggest fear. I'm definitely not against it happening. I'm just against it happening without them really, really trying to help and, show an effort towards caring about the fighting game community itself, because it's a real strong loyalty to all the organizers that have been doing it for years. I've only been around for a couple years, and already I've gained, such trust within the community because they've seen and it's shown, my transparency of how I put together the event, where all the money went, what was made, and how I took care of everybody involved. But overall, I think it'll be a very hard road if it happens. A lot of the top players I know will be very happy, but they'll understand, that it's just not the same as it was when it's run by the people they already know are doing it. So I think it'll be a tough road if it does happen. I would like to see how it goes. I would like to be a part of it if it, were to happen, just to make sure that the fighting game community does not get screwed over in any way, and all the other events that have already worked so hard for, over a decade now, have been around, don't go anywhere anytime soon. So it'll be a tough road if it happens. I think it can be successful. It's just not going to happen overnight.
All right, Doom, what do you think about that?
I partially agree, or mostly, actually. A lot of the things you said are very spot on, that if they do decide to pick us up, that they should really treat us with care, because we've come a long way from our grassroots roots, I suppose. And I don't think that some of the concerns people are having about them not handling us with care are valid. I think that being from the Smash community and having been on the MLG circuit for only 1 year, but also being to many grassroots tournaments, that they really I really don't think that they gave us the short end of the stick or tried to be apathetic towards our communal needs, and they were actually they were pretty kind and giving as far as understanding what the community needs to do.
Okay. Jebailey, do you have anything towards that? You guys can go back and forth if you feel like it.
Personally, I do agree with him. I think they have a good shot. I hate to compare anything because everyone is, every entity like Smash has its own community. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, they all have their own community. I think Smash and the Street Fighter worlds are completely different, and just the type of crowd and the attendees and stuff. Smash never really had any direction before MLG. I think with MLG, that was their first shot at the big time. The fighting game community's already had their big time, with Evo, and it's only been getting bigger. So I think it'll be MLG's first time taking on a community which has already developed itself. Smash was never really developed on a bigger scale than other than all the people, doing their hard work just to bring Smash tournaments together. So that's kind of my opinion on that. Smash is totally different in terms of organizing it, bringing it together, and all the players and such.
I would, in response to that, say that Smash did actually have time on the MLG circuit before Brawl. So the Melee veterans and the people that carried over, from the older days of Smash actually did have a lot of experience with MLG. I think actually for 2 years it was on MLG. And if not directly on the circuit, then at least they sponsored grassroots tournaments. I wasn't around for much of Melee because I'm too young, but they definitely had a lot of there was experience to be had, and Smash did have a fair amount of direction before that. We had during MLG Apex 2010, which is a follow-up to its less known predecessor of Apex 2009, and that just on that track we'd already had multiple hundreds of entrants at nationals, and there was definitely some degree of direction. MLG, I'm not going to lie, it really did push Brawl in a certain way that it hadn't been before, but Smash, it did have this path set out for it, and people knew where to go rather than just grassroots tournaments. And I'll agree that the Street Fighter and Smash communities are definitely different, but that's mostly in terms of size. The Melee community shares a lot more with some of the other games than the Brawl community does, but it still just kind of trickles over because they are very related.
Right. And for the record, I actually used to play Melee a lot. Back in when did it come out? 2003, 2004?
2001.
Oh, well, Jesus, yep. Yeah. Okay, so I used to actually play Peach, and I had a friend, Trent, who got me into the game when we were playing Capcom versus SNK2, and we went to a lot of Melee tournaments, and we always placed high with nothing but Peach cheese. So, I played Melee a ton, and then I gave Brawl a shot right away, but I knew from the first tournament I went to when all I lost were to Meta Knights, I said, this guy is going to ruin this game in less than a year. And, that was me from a Street Fighter background, and I never really call any characters broken, but just the fact that he had so much priority on certain moves, I knew he would shape the whole thing. How the meta game went, and then just to find out, recently this year they decided to finally ban it. I was like, well, that took them long enough, but it was good because after MLG, dropped Smash, I do know for a fact that they helped out the grassroots tournaments, but it is exciting to see Apex, Alex Strife, I'll give him a shout out, and the Unity rule set. Because last year I actually ran the Unity rule set at CEO, just to see that there is direction. Even though I followed that one article about Meta Knight being banned and how not a single one of the guys on the board or whatever even used him. So I forgot the name of the guy, but I pay attention to everything. So my mistake that there was a little bit of a scene already building into the MLG, but for what I know, a lot of people that played Melee did not transfer over to Brawl. They just stuck with Melee. So, and a lot of people still prefer Melee, like Hungry Box. I'm sure your community knows all about him. Very good friend of mine. He helped me with CEO the last 2 years. And Detour, as if he ever listens to this, was a huge help this year. But I'm glad that they're still thriving. They're doing a great job. I've personally decided not to run Smash again, just because Street Fighter's been really big on its own. So things have been good though for the Smash community. I feel really good for them that they're doing well on their own, even though MLG did drop them, but they're still doing good. So that is a kind of a good sign for the Street Fighter community if they ever got it. But like I said, it's a different breed of players. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, no doubt. Also, just one, not even a correction, because you're right in what you said about nobody on the Unity Rule Set committee playing Meta Knight. 4 days after they voted to ban him, I was put on the committee, and I'm a Meta Knight main. I was ranked very highly in New Jersey with him, and I am also in favor of the ban. So people stopped doubting the credibility of that ban a little bit when a reputable Meta Knight main was put on the committee.
Right.
But still, a lot of people were questionable about it. Anyway, onto some new topics instead of just going back and forth about Smash.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but I actually want to bring something up. I think I read. All right, Lord Jarrett's article has really helped me see sort of a lot of the comments that people have been making, and one thing that I've been seeing is a lot of people. I feel like with the presence of larger MLG tournaments, because MLG will have 4 events next year. That's the plan they're running out. And do you think that the community actually thinks that with these large tournaments that it would kill the grassroots community? Because people obviously are afraid of having, EVO being on the same weekend as MLG. It did happen this year, So, I mean, do you think that's actually valid? Because, I mean, we're all left to MLG and we're still doing pretty good.
I think the MLG isn't going to have the reaction and turnouts that they think they're going to have. For example, the reason why I say that is CEO this year was on the same date as a Revelations tournament. Where it was an outside. I mean, this guy isn't MLG. He's not an established, entity or anything. But he threw out there like $30,000 worth of prize pots. Mine was I only advertised about 10,000, but I ended up paying about 20,000 out to everything. But it was like a big competition for him because it was in LA. It was the same weekend as E3, and I ended up, for lack of a better word, crushing his attendance numbers just because of community loyalty, and and the hard work that people saw. And I was a little bit of a dick. It was a competition to me. I was like, because my event was announced 2 months before. So a lot of people will go with the event that's already announced. But for MLG, I don't think they're going to see the huge results because there's going to be a really big, not so much trust issues, but it's going to be a backlash in the community. And this is just my opinion, because what people aren't understanding with the debate, everyone has, an ego and they're protecting themselves, which they have 100% every right to do. Where was MLG before EVO really, really blew up? And I know, thanks to guys like Slasher, and Sir Scoots, they've always wanted fighting games. But as a company, they never really wanted it, like MLG Sundance, until it really showed how big it could really be because of what EVO accomplished. And I think, to be able to want to compete with that right out of the gate and try to not really so much take over, but just, take away that crowd from us just so they can be successful, they're not going to see the results they want, and I really don't think it'll last more than a year. So I mean, I could be totally wrong. If I am wrong, then I'll be very excited because I'm never one that's bitter about being wrong. It'll be tough. They'll have a lot of hard work against them to do that. And now what might go against them, and MLG doing a bunch of layoffs. I hate to bring this up, but not around Christmas time. It doesn't matter when you do layoffs. It's never a good thing. But for a company to have their biggest year ever, to have layoffs and stuff, especially to cancel Slasher show, which I give him all the credit in the world. He's really cared about the fighting game community by giving awareness to the players on a show, being a very big advocate of, the fighting game community. For his show to be gone, that was like the best way of them bridging the gap into the fighting game community, and now that's gone. Maybe it's going to be replaced by something, who knows, but it's going to be really tough, I think, and I know they're going to be smart and not step on any grassroots dates. How many events did they have this year? 5, right?
Yeah, it was 5.
Okay, so there's 4. So I think they're going to have to work really hard if it does happen for them. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I know they're going to do their best not to step on the grassroots because I do know some people have talked to MLG and made suggestions to them, and hopefully they're listening. If they're not listening and they do try to step all over us, it's going to bite them in the ass so bad. So,
Well, you brought up community loyalty, and what we saw with Brawl when MLG did it was that when we have Alpha Zealot who runs tournaments out in the Midwest, and he's a very very key player in sort of the back rooms of the Smash community, and he became a big player in the MLG tournaments. I know Solid Jake is another tournament organizer. He was a ref. Dazwa also was part of MLG, so. I would think MLG would want to have community TOs like maybe yourself or someone else be part of running these tournaments, so that way there is that kind of loyalty. Is that even plausible at all?
Definitely is. Like I said, I'm behind the scenes more than people know now because a couple of big successful events, people take notice, and I've been fortunate to talk to some of the top people in both scenes, to be honest. So, like I said, they're gonna definitely reach out. But it's not going to be easy overnight. First of all, they have to get the games. Who knows if it's even happening? I know nothing's been confirmed. I know they're trying really hard. And I actually met Alpha Zealot in person at MLG Orlando because I was right down the road from there. And he's a great guy. He showed me what MLG can offer. But the thing that it doesn't really bother me so much, but when they ask like what can MLG offer us, the only answer they ever give us is money, and money is great. I run a very successful Disney World company here in Orlando. That's my day job. And that's what pretty much funds all of my endeavors with CEO. But there should be more to it than just money. I mean, they should be bringing up that they have these bigger venues, and because it's not the money part is only going to apply to like 10% of our entire scene in general. My goal with my CEO tournaments is to make everyone happy and make it a spectator sport. And they just care about the money, and the turnouts will come on their own. If there's money involved, people will show up. But like I said, when they come and it's a different experience, because I've actually been to, I went to MLG Orlando, and I've been to Evo, so I can compare them. I've actually been in both positions, and I remember when Ultra David wrote his article about how NSL is, or NASL is, and then I saw the backlash, like it's not an MLG event, it's different. So I took his perspective on the NASL event, took my perspective on MLG, and they're about the same. It's a very mature level at MLG. I saw that Soul Calibur, my SC. I think Soul Calibur, StarCraft 2 was incredibly hype. It was very well done. I did not like the disconnect though between the players and the crowd. The players just walk into their booth, they play their game, they get out, they sign autographs. The fighting game community is totally different. When I first met Justin Wong, I was a starstruck, fan of his as well. Now me and him have become very, very close friends. He really helped me out with CEO, and he's hands down the biggest player and name in the Street Fighter community, and he just proved himself again last night that he's still one of the best in the world. So there's a lot of like disconnect between the players and the fans. That's one thing that'll have to work itself out. So I just went off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No. That's good. What do you think, Doom?
I think, well, some of your concerns may seem valid. I think from the experience of Smash at MLG, the whole go into the booth, stop playing, sign autographs, resume playing, that wasn't really at all a factor at MLG. It was still the social kind of it felt like a grassroots tournament just in a really nice venue, and there were MLG announcers in the background. The hype that we caused, I mean, Smash isn't the biggest or the loudest crowd, but it's still fairly large and loud. We almost capped a lot of events, and there were some really hype matches. People were screaming. It didn't interfere with any other games. We were never asked to quiet down at all. Tekken had the same thing, and it was just a very personal environment as usual. And I think that while you say it shouldn't be all about the money, I definitely agree with you. It should not be all about the money, but I don't think MLG is always all about the money. I think their premise as a company has always been to bring competitive gaming to the spotlight and not just to raise money. But I mean, they are still a company, and that's the function of a company. They need to bring in
Sustain
revenue
themselves.
so they can. Yeah, exactly. They need to. They need to pay their own bills, and also they should profit for their hard work. I don't see anything wrong with that. And I think if they wouldn't be successful because of any communal backlash from the fighting game community, I think that's kind of a shame that people would be like so xenophobic to just like not even consider it an option or give the tournaments less credit. I know I believe this coming year they're only going to be doing 4 events, which is, that's only 4 weekends out of the year, and I don't think that's too hard to coordinate with any other events. It could get in the way in a few cases, but still, only 4 out of the 52 weekends in the entire year. It's very manageable, and they definitely won't be Evo. I agree with that. Evo has already established such a powerful name in the fighting game community, but you still see other regionals, like grassroots regionals, bringing in large numbers. I mean, SCR had how many entrants? I don't even know the exact number.
I think they capped them at 256 in each tournament. So they had a very solid tournament. And one thing a lot of people don't think about is, as an organizer and as a player, I pay attention to everything. Last year they had a couple international players. This year they did not, yet they had so many more viewers, and it was still a great event. Because I've always wanted to bring international players. That's what made CEO a success. But the Level Up crew proved that you don't need people from all over the world to come to a tournament to bring more people. They had just a solid foundation, an amazing event, and everyone enjoyed it, and that showed. But yeah, they definitely stepped it up. And a lot of people say, well, the SCR crowd looked pretty manageable. MLG's not going to kick those guys out. And it did. It looked very professional, so it was a little bit quieter of a crowd, but it was still a very exciting event to watch. But one thing I'd like to point out to any of the FGC players, if they happen to listen to this, is like when I did go to MLG, StarCraft was hype, but those FPS, man, I thought I was watching zombies just sit there and stare at a screen. It was so quiet watching Halo and Call of Duty. I mean, I literally just walked and I looked, and I had a couple FGC buddies watching, like, dude, can you hear a pin drop right now? It was weird. So to have Street Fighter and StarCraft in the same venue would be pretty much insane. I've never been a fan of mixing genres at events. I've seen it happen, not MLG size or anything like that, and it's very tough to pull off because it's just totally two different crowds. You want to kind of get some StarCraft players to like Street Fighter or vice versa, but it's going to be a very select few that really start to enjoy both. And I actually know on both sides people that enjoy both fighting games and RTSs. I actually even dabbled in StarCraft for a little bit. I'm like, Idra, I could probably beat that guy. Give me a week with this game, and then after 2 games online, I was like, yep, this will take 2 years to get good at. MLG, and that's good that they've only announced 4 events, so that makes it a lot more manageable. It's just a lot of people in the fighting game community don't want these guys that have never really had a Capcom fighter to come in and step all over us, because we're going to be fearful regardless. We're gonna be watching it with hawk eyes, pun intended, and just paying very close attention to how it works. But it's up to Capcom, really. None of the all these debates is people are forgetting that if Capcom doesn't make a decision to support either of us, they do support the FGC. Forget I said that, but I mean, and in terms of a professional, $1 million corporation league payout, it's entirely up to them, and I don't see them budging because they're a very old-fashioned Japanese company, which makes most of the decisions. So we got to see how it pans out. But if MLG has something secret in the works, you never know. But I've seen some of Sundance's tweets where he's like, I just give up. So, maybe that's just a ploy to confuse people, but we got to wait and see.
Okay.
And I want to move on a little bit. Sorry to cut you off, but
no problem.
Even though. But I remember you tweeting this, Jebailey, on Twitter, and I didn't comment on it unlike the other ones because I wanted to save it for this. And you said, by the way, what happens to all the other fighting games if a league only picks up one? None of the other league players will care about the smaller games anymore. Why do you think that?
I mean, for the most part, it shows you now the big crowds for Street Fighter are still there, but Mortal Kombat's kind of dwindled down. And I don't mean at the bigger tournaments because they still pull in 70, 80 players, which is really good. But a lot of smaller events, I went to an event just the other day, 2 hours north of here, and CEO last year had nearly 200 people enter Mortal Kombat. This past weekend had 8 people. I was one of them, just to pitch into the pot and keep the scene going, so to speak. And just because what's going to happen is all the top players, like Justin Wong loves to play everything. For example, he plays King of Fighters. He loves that game. We all love all the new games. We give them a shot. He gave Mortal Kombat a shot, but then attendance dropped and they patched it so much it kind of changed. But what'll happen is, because if Justin Wong moves to a big league where the first place prize is $20,000, which would be the largest outside of Evo, which Evo pays out a lot, they just don't announce it. is he'll play this game and then he'll be like, all right, so this much money is at stake in this game. I should not be playing the other games as much, so he won't take those other games seriously. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I really see it having a negative effect if, say, MLG got just one game. They got Cross Tekken. Everybody would just be playing Cross Tekken, regardless if it's a good game or not. They're going to be focusing to win that money, and then they're not going to care as much for the other games unless it's like come Evo time or a really big major, and then all the smaller scenes are just going to kind of drop off. Because I've paid attention to like Gears of War, for example. I believe once MLG dropped that scene just disappeared.
Yeah.
So
Fell off the face of the earth.
exactly. So, but I mean, that's not MLG's fault. That's mostly the game's fault. If people love a game, they're still going to play it. But if MLG picks up just one big Capcom fighter, all the other ones are going to have a very hard time trying to keep up.
Okay, Doom, what do you think about that?
I think again, Smash is a fairly decent example here. Obviously not the best, but when Brawl was picked up, Melee did not come with it, despite being a potential returning candidate for the circuit, and Melee certainly did not die at all. I mean, Melee has been off the MLG feeding tube, so to speak, for a really long time, and they've always thrived. And when Brawl came on and Melee didn't, the Melee community might have gotten a little salty in the beginning, but it all kind of cleared up, and Melee has still at some nationals even outperformed Brawl. So I think MLG dictating which game is quote unquote in, if they were to pick up just one and not the others. I don't think with such a strong grassroots community that it would really pose any sort of a threat. The only danger I would say the fighting game community stands to face is that they won't draw as many new players from streams. Like, say, if King of Fighters 13 was on MLG and a lot of people saw it, just like while watching StarCraft, it's just like, oh, by the way, King of Fighters is on right now. They might pick up some new people. Like you said, it's also hard to get cross-genre interest, but the absence of other games or even bigger games from there really isn't too harmful because there are so many other tournaments that get streamed. Like you have the SCR, the NCR, you have Evo. I mean, Evo streams everything, every game. So I don't think it'll really kill the game or any other games just by having 4 or 5 tops events that are exclusive to some games that didn't get picked up, or to the games that did get picked up, rather. In total, it's, X amount of prize dollars, and then life goes on.
I'm going to actually comment on this, and I actually sort of almost agree with Jebailey here a little bit more. And the reason for that is, look at how much money the MLG scene, provides per event, and that's 4 events. And I can understand if Justin Wong, for example, if they pick up King of Fighters 13, for example, MLG wants to pick up King of Fighters 13, and Justin Wong wants to go play that, and he knows he's going to win. If anything, he thinks he's very, very likely to win some money. That's 4 events he knows he's going to make money in. I can understand if he puts a lot more time into that, because Evo is only 1 event, and it's qualifiers. I personally don't know how many qualifiers Evo has, and if it's even a set number every year. So I can understand the understanding, because if a Street Fighter or Marvel gets picked up, and there's that amount of money that's going to be in the community that's winnable, plus all of the other tournaments that are going to go on regardless of whether or not MLG picks up the game, I can understand if all of a sudden people don't go into King of Fighters or Mortal Kombat or even Skullgirls when that comes out, or Cross Tekken, because they know that there isn't as much money in it. I think that is actually a pretty decent concern. On the other hand, it is only 4 events, and I think Justin Wong and people like him aren't going to necessarily be like, all right, let me just only play this game because I know I have guaranteed money. They play a lot of different games, and I think that people who are gonna play a game are gonna play a game regardless. I don't think anyone who is really interested in King of Fighters is going to see MLG and be all of a sudden, oh my god, I can't play this game anymore because they picked up Marvel vs. Capcom 3 instead. So I think it goes both ways.
It's a very good point. The reason why is a lot of people that play Mortal Kombat still won't play Street Fighter, and
Right.
kind of vice versa. So I'll give you credit that is a very valid point, that people still play the games they care about. I just think all the pros that are already established in winning might not look at the other games as much and play those anymore
I definitely
on a
agree.
bigger level than outside of with their friends here and there.
Yeah. Now, as we're going to wrap this up in a little bit to not make this too long, but I want to address Lord Jareth's article, because that's been quite it caused a little bit of drama here and there, and I actually don't know. I don't think I saw your opinion on this either, Doom or Alex. So Alex, I guess you can start. What do you think? What do you think about it?
I didn't want to really make him famous and give him the he was trolling the community. I'll give the guy credit. I liked his Skip Bayless approach of really hounding it in there against Ultra David, but a lot of the things he said were not incorrect, but a little just way overboard just to seek attention. But I mean, very valid points. I kind of forgot the article, to be honest with you, because it was such a trolly article in my opinion. But to call Ultra David a poser, and I texted Ultra David and I was like, he called you he kind of laughed about it, because we're all adults here. We just want to play video games and enjoy them. But for the most part, he's doing it for the attention. He got some of our attention to at least check out his article. But the things like how our community will disrespect their women is total BS. Our scene has grown a long way. I know we're rowdy and such, but like for CEO example, everyone was one huge happy family. There was no disrespect. Nobody was disrespecting women that were there. And granted, I'll admit, MLG had a lot of girls running around. I was very impressed. Compared to like a fighting game community event. But that's kind of changed really over the years. Because the reason why is the terms of size, MLG it's much more appealing to spectators to just come check things out. But over the last year, every grassroots event has completely stepped it up, got bigger venues, more girls are getting involved, stuff like that. So that whole part of it was just over the top. Ultra David wasn't trying to belittle our community by saying, we come from poorer backgrounds or, stuff like that. He was just saying how the scene's kind of been over the years. But, he didn't really point out as much that it's really changed and we're not the Neanderthals that the other community's thinking, because regardless of what MLG thinks or not, if they get our games, they're going to need us, regardless of how crazy we are, where we come from, stuff like that. But, for example, a lot of the besides Evo does charge a lot. It's like a $70 venue fee if you're late, $50, if you're early, but it's worth every single penny. I gladly pay for it every year I go. But to like an MLG event, I'm not sure how their venue fee system would work for fighting games. I wasn't around. But in terms of like, crap, I went into a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
I forgot the point I was going to make. Give me a second. Lord Jazz. Oh, in general, just about crap, I lost it.
All right, well, I'll take that. Dude, what do you think?
I think that I can't have opened my statement any better than what Alex just said. It is very, very brash of Jareth to have come out attacking Ultra David, and that really it kind of gave the article a bad taste when I read it. But overall, Jareth does raise a lot of good points. But I can understand a lot of people being biased against what he wrote, because he just flat out insulted such an icon to the fighting game community that it's very hard to look past that. And the same thing happened when he had Spooky on the losers bracket. He, seemed like he was coming.
As well.
Yeah, exactly. He seemed like he was coming at Tom Cannon a little bit. And, Jerry is a very outspoken guy from what I've seen. I've seen him feud with Juice Gaming's DM Brandon. That's infamous in the Smash community. But anyway, the most interesting part, I think, is the player backgrounds and the money and such. MLG events cost $50, I believe, for registration as well. I know you were touching upon Evo's cost, and it's really not that bad. You have to understand for nationals, this is so worth it. Why would you forego such a venue just because the price is like $20 more than a local?
Right.
But I also don't think that the difference in background and demeanor is really harmful to the MLG atmosphere at all. The venues that they rent are absolutely enormous, and you can, there's just always going to be that humming background noise, which could be when you walk over to one side of the room, obscene yelling, or when you walk onto the other side of the room, just caused by all the computers that they're playing StarCraft on. It's really like the noise is never a factor, I think, and even though some people in the fighting game community might come from less privileged backgrounds because they're not running these $1,500+ machines and stuff, I really don't think that impedes the ability we have to coexist. I mean, the biggest point I've seen in favor of merging esports and the fighting game community is that we all do the same thing. We all play video games, and we're all kind of suffering from the we're still in the shadow of other hobbies thing. And I think that joining together, regardless of any kind of background differences or like, oh, these people are too noisy or these people are too quiet, they don't have enough hype. I think those are really poor reasons. And we all just kind of need to get together and acknowledge that we have a very similar interest field, regardless of genre inside of it.
Yeah, I agree. And, just to point out what you just said, I mean, you see someone play Street Fighter, and you see somebody wearing StarCraft, and I watch both games. I play StarCraft, I play Street Fighter, I play Marvel, I play Smash. I'm not particularly good at any of those games, but when I see somebody win a game of StarCraft, I see someone win a game of Street Fighter, I can see the same kind of hype. Even though the StarCraft players may be a little more, reserved because it's how you play the game. But I can see that kind of hype, and I think there is that kind of coexisting. Going back to Jared's article, obviously this is a VV Game podcast, so I don't want to bite the hand that feeds, and I also want to point out things. I mean, I do agree with some of his points. I remember when he was asking, hey guys, what do you guys think of the article, etc. I was like, I don't know, if maybe calling Ultra David a prick is the best idea, but not
and
my
Three Stooges.
And yeah. Not my choice of words. But I've known Jerry for several years now, and he means well, and I think ultimately that's how he does things. That's his way of going about things. If it's the best way, I don't know, but that's how he does it. And it would be different if you, Alex, or Doom came out with a similar article. You probably wouldn't have the same thing, but it's it's his version, I guess. So I have to give him that kind of say. I guess we're gonna wrap it up here. If anyone has anything else to say in terms of what we've been talking about, any last words from either of you, Alex, anything?
For the most part, here's what's going to happen. If, MLG doesn't get anything, I just have to say the fighting game community has evolved like you wouldn't believe in just the last year alone. So you can expect big things on my behalf, on, Evo's behalf, moving towards the future. So if, it's not the end of the world if the big leagues don't start paying us out, because we're trying to do our own big things now, because I think if they don't merge, they can easily coexist. For example, look at NBA, NFL, MLB. Those are all completely three different sports, but they all have the same thing. They want people involved to have a good time, enjoy them. Obviously everything has politics, and back to Jared's article real quick is like how Tom and Spooky, we were defending our turf. We have every right to be, because when you've worked so hard for over a decade to bring together an event that started in a small little arcade into something with over 6,000 people, 2 million unique views like Evo this year, for some other company to say, hey, we want a piece of that, anybody has 100% right to protect what they believe in. I know I can't speak for Tom or anything, but I know he's not against eSports and anti-big leagues or anything. We just want it done right. That's what his belief is. That's what my belief is. We don't want some guy coming in here throwing out money. For example, Revelations, the guy, no disrespect, but he worked with Alex Valle, who did. You saw last night. Alex Valle put SoCal Regionals together by himself with an amazing team without an outside party. The year before, Revelations was Alex Valle working for another guy, and that was a great event on the, but he branched off away from that guy because that guy decided, okay, this event did not make the money and the results that I was hoping for as a businessman, so I'm just never going to do this again. And that guy, Tournament Legacy, has disappeared since then. But, Alex Valle continued on. He did an entire huge event by himself. So if we don't get money from outside sources, like MLG or a big league, we're going to find other ways to do it, because we now have the numbers to prove to companies that we're definitely worth something. But we're not going to forget, while we're worth something and we deserve to make money from what we do, is we are fans ourselves, and we're not going to screw our fans over just to be greedy and make money. So, like I said, Evo has every right to protect themselves, because they've worked so hard to get what they have, and to have another company just come in and try to, not take it away. MLG is not here to stomp anyone out. I'm not going to be a farce and say that kind of thing. But, it's just an outside company, and they're just trying to capitalize on what's making money at the time. And, if they didn't have StarCraft, who knows where MLG would be right now, because definitely those shooters were boring as hell to me. But, it'll be an exciting year to see what happens. I know Capcom's definitely gotten more involved than ever, and it's only going to get better. So either way, esports or not, the fighting game community is a big deal now, and they're only going to get bigger, and the fans are the best, and that's why I still do it, and that's why I'm going to keep putting on CEO and keeping an eye on the entire scene as a whole to make sure nothing goes to shit overnight.
All right. Well, with that, I want to actually wrap this up right now because it's been a little bit and we've had a lot talked about. So I hope people can join in on the conversation, tell us what you think. Obviously, shout outs to PvP Gaming for hosting the show and giving us awesome topics to talk about. I want to thank both of you guys for being here, Doom, and of course you, Alex, for talking to me with this debate because clearly I want to get as many perspectives as possible. So I think this definitely adds to the conversation. Shout outs to everybody who's listening to the show and has been adding to the conversation. And of course, Doom, we got to point this out. Apex 2012 is in how many weeks? Like 2?
3.5 or something?
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
approaching very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stress on the Apex 2012 team. As a staff member, I see all the hustling and bustling in the Facebook group. It's really something. People are really working hard to get this event to be what it's shaping up to be. And Jebailey, I know you're not going to be able to make it out, but you expressed your support earlier. That's awesome.
I need to actually talk to Alex. He's been trying to reach me forever, and he's like, "Did you get my email?" And I showed him a screenshot of my iPhone with like 200 emails outstanding. I was like, "Yeah, I think it's in there," So, but yeah, I know he's working with SCR supporting him. I've actually spoke to Alex Valle, and it's just another event to get our names out there. But at first, I was very hesitant to even support anything Smash. But I'll give credit where credit is due. What Alex Strife is trying to pull off is a really hard thing to do. But when I see somebody full of passion try to do what he's doing, I give him all the credit in the world. So definitely going to be speaking to him soon and help him with whatever he needs. But I really hope it's a success. Like I said, there's always going to be resistance when you mix genres, but I think he's going to do a great job. And the Apex is a big name forming, and so far from what I've seen, it looks great. I really hope it takes off.
Definitely. And by the way, everybody, if you haven't registered already, December 31st is the last time you can register. I believe you can register at the door, though, but pre-registration online does end December 31st. And if you can't make it out, please check the streams. I know both myself and Doom will be there. I'll be doing this show live at Apex. So I'll be tired as hell come Monday after the tournament. I know you'll be commentating, Doom, so both of us probably won't have any voices by the time the event is over with, unfortunately. But either way, we're both extremely excited. I hope all you guys are too. And register, go. You better go because it's going to be an amazing event. I'm looking forward to it. Other than that, I'm guessing we can wrap up the show. So I believe this will be the last DI for the year. I believe we will be releasing this, and then Apex will be our live show, and then we'll be back on a regular schedule. So no more episodes as far as I'm concerned for the rest of 2011. We'll start back up in 2012. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate everyone joining with us. It's been a really crazy year and a half since we started the podcast, and again, thanks to you two guys coming out for the show. So yeah, this Directional Influence episode 52. We see you guys next year pretty much. Watch us at Apex, and thanks for listening.
No problem.
Follow me on CEO Jebailey on Twitter.
Yes.
Follow me also. Follow me at Juice Doom, and look out for me on Final Sunday at Apex. I will be commentating the entire top 8, as well as part of Saturday.
Yes, and of course you can follow me too at VVP Rapture. And yeah, see ya.